So today is Screen Free Sunday, and one of my big plans for today is to get my Week in the Life album with some serious progress. So far, this is the really cute album that I'm doing. I have done a previous video with making the title page. Obviously, I still haven't corrected the date. So this is what I've got for Monday so far. So I did another page on the back there, morning routine, a day trip we had there, afternoon chores, evening routine. And so I'm up to Tuesday. So I'm just going to put this to the side. I've created a little box here. This is just an IKEA box, and I've just stuck all my bits and pieces in here to try and keep it a little bit organized so I can come in and work on it in little bits and pieces. So I've separated out my Tuesday photos. So these are the 4x6 version. So I've printed every photo as a 4x6, a 3x4, and a 2x3. So I'm just going to put those ones together. So this was a day with lots of photos because we had lots going on. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to lay them out so then I can go through, pick out my smaller photos, and then start working from there. Kids did some baking. How cute's that? So that's actually from the Women's Weekly birthday party book, but the kids saw it on Bluey, so I think that's about my day. Created the collages using Lightroom. As I was exporting, I was able to export it in this format. So when I'm doing Week in the Life, I'm trying to capture different things every day. As a stay-at-home homeschooling mum, my days are very similar day after day. It's, school, house, kids. Not a lot changes. One day I'll be recording the boring stuff. One day I'll be recording, the school day that we do. So this particular day that I was working, we had homeschool group, we had a dance class, which was a bit of fun, and then after the dance class we went to the shops. But then once we got home, it was a busy day with lots going on. I started making a dress, so I tried to capture part of my morning routine here. So I think in the Monday one you can see I've got the setup for just kind of like the shower and getting dressed and making the bed and stuff. So then the next day I did, some chores and what inside my medicine cabinet looks like and my outfit of the day, trying to capture different parts of my life on different days. Some days lend themselves more to being photographable than others, but it's just about capturing those little moments in life. Boring stuff like hanging the washing, doing the schoolwork. So now I've got those all in order. I'm going to start down the bottom here and stack them in the right order. I can start from the top to make a bit of a plan and start grouping like things together. So I've kind of tried to do a mix of action shots. So you can see here, there's me. I've kind of put my phone out over further in the paddock to capture me doing the hanging, but then I've also taken a shot of just the washing line to give a couple of different perspectives. So for me, it's important when I am doing this Week in the Life that I include myself in the photos. It's not just the kids and the chores and stuff. Most of these photos here that I've got were taken on my camera, which I use a Nikon D50. Chances are high I've used a 35mm lens for all of these because that's my favorite lens. And look, honestly, I feel really weird walking through Coles taking photos, but it's 30 seconds. There might be two people looking at me strange, and it is what it is, to be honest. And the joy of having this album to look back on is much more important than 2 seconds of embarrassment. So I'm going to keep these two sets of photos out for now. So this is my morning routine. So when I look at my album, that was the start of Monday, having coffee with my boy. I've kind of done a little pocket journaling with his work roster there. Flick through. So I do have this page. I do need to do like a Tuesday title page. So what if, let me grab that out. So most of my pages are the 4x4s, like the 4-page. There are a few of the 2-ups, and there are also a few of these full page ones. If I run out of the full page ones, I'm not too stressed because I can always just do and add a tip-in page like this, which I actually quite like because I like the, going over a lot. If you've seen my video with Messy May, that's kind of one of my favorite journaling things, is to go off the page. So I'm going to work with a double layout, this is me kind of thing, which will actually work really well because that means then that I can do dance class and the shops, which were kind of all in the one outgoing. So that should work well for the flow. So I kind of think a little bit about the flow of the pages as we go through, but also I'm not kind of going through and going, this will be this page, this will be this page. So keep it a little bit loose, Sometimes it does catch me out, but for the most part, it's worked out well. All my evening pages I was able to put together. The afternoon of Monday kind of all came together. This double page spread was being all out and about, so it kind of worked well. So that was, say, what? So we've got morning, going out, afternoon and evening. We'll see if this one works out about the same. So to be honest, I haven't really even used a lot of the 4x6s, but they're handy to have for planning, and I'd rather have the option. I've just uploaded them all and printed through Harvey Norman, so it was like 10 or 15 cents, so I'm not too stressed. So that one can go there. And then I have tended to use the smaller photos more than anything, though I've included some full-sized ones, but it was, yeah, I like having the option. Maybe something like that. So all my backgrounds, I am using this white cardstock. This is just, I get it as 12 by 12 in a bulk pack. So this offcut here is still 6 inches wide, and it should be 12 inches. Perfect. So we'll first cut off the 6 by 8. Get me there. I am using the Cricut paper cutter, but I'm contemplating actually changing over to the Fiskars just because it is so hard to get the blades at the shops. So it's only really like the biggest spotlights that have them, and even my bigger regional one here doesn't have them. So I've always got to order them in, which is a pain in the butt. So I am thinking I may just switch over to a Fiskars just because it's easier to get the blades for. So I am going to need another. I already had one cut. Perfect. So I am using this paper pad that I just got from Spotlight. So I'm just going to fiddle a little bit. I kind of do some traditional scrapbooking style stuff. I do some mixed media type of stuff. So I think I'm going to put you on fast forward while I fiddle with this, just because I kind of just wing it and fiddle with it. And you probably don't need to hear my stream of consciousness as I do it. So I'm going to chuck you on fast forward while I get this double page layout done. And I might even chuck on a podcast for you to listen to from Ministry of Crafty Shenanigans, which is a conversational around the craft table style podcast that I did 4 seasons of with my crafty bestie. So listen along and watch as I get some crafting done. Hi, I'm Rach.
And I'm Car. Welcome to the Ministry of Crafty Shenanigans,
a weekly podcast on creativity, connection, community, and collaboration. It's really interesting since we started the podcast how my mind is just geared towards looking for examples of things like that we talk about. I came across, I don't know if it was on Tumblr or Twitter, but it was a post about the errand hang. I'm like, this is interesting. And so this particular person said, in their particular culture, it's really normal to invite a friend to just cruise along with you while you run errands. I think the example they used was like buying a new mattress and then going to the bank. And they, it was quite normal that you would invite a friend just to hang and to chat while you're running these errands. And then they moved to America, and it was kind of seen as a failure of adulting to require someone to keep you company to do these basic everyday things. And it was really interesting to read it. I will link it in our show notes. But it also made me think of us, because we kind of do something very similar via via Facebook Messenger. But it really resonated with me the way that sharing kind of those really mundane everyday activities are such a great way of building a depth of relationship.
How many times in the past have I rung my bestie and gone, hey, I've got to go and do XYZ at the shops. Let's meet for a coffee. I think the problem is now it becomes let's go for coffee and then do all the things while we're there, as opposed to actually physically going, okay, well, I'm going to do XYZ. Let's go for coffee is my love language. That's exactly what I like to hear. But yes, definitely similar to what we do now, particularly moving into more like at home. You're at home with the children. I'm work from home. So it's easy to, if we're feeling unmotivated, it's good to have somebody that's basically in my pocket to go, hey, I need some motivation because I am like literally in danger of just sitting on the couch and doing nothing all day. What can I do? And it's good because then I bounce off you. And then sometimes it used to be new shiny projects. Obviously, it's not that now because I can't find anything in my craft room. That's an ongoing thing we won't mention. But it was you that came up with a 3x3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a time we were both kind of struggling a little bit with feeling overwhelmed by all the things. And so I had started doing it myself, pick a top 3. And so then I think you were kind of like, I've got so much to do today. I don't know where to start. And so I said to you, pick three. And from there, it's evolved into that 3 by 3 thing. We have shared that previously. There is a freebie download available on our website, but you and I just do it in our messengers, don't we? And sometimes we'll title it with a little bit of commentary of how we're feeling today. So we will share, okay, today I have to do these 3 things. And it's that mundane of coming back and checking them off. And it's an internet way of doing life, I think. We can see when we're washing the sheets and when we're cleaning the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. It's sharing the mundane of every day, and I think by sharing that, it brings a new level of vulnerability, which allows for a depth of relationship that comes with sharing the really boring stuff of life. It's letting someone see into your home, basically,
without judgment.
without judgment. Absolutely without judgment. There is
Which
zero judgment involved in the 3 by 3 or the everyday.
I find it interesting because when I try to explain, obviously I have high anxiety, and when I try to explain to my husband that there's just so many things on my list for the day, he's like, just start somewhere. And you can sit me down in front of a computer and give me a list as long as my arm for work, and I'll just bam, 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 I'll do it. But when it comes back to inside the house, I've never been one to say, hey, I'm a great housekeeper. Whereas now that I'm at home, it then becomes back to on me how I manage my time, and I don't have anyone else managing my time for me, and it piles up and it piles up, and then you get so overwhelmed. Well, I get so overwhelmed that it's like, okay, like my house was spotless at the end of last week, and I'm looking around today going, oh, here we go again.
I think it comes back to that accountability thing as well, that I know we've
Yeah.
spoken about. I think it might have even been in season 1, about how both of us thrive in different ways with accountability. And, at work, obviously, we're accountable to someone, but at home, kind of like, well, it's our family.
Mm.
Technically, we are accountable to them, but and I think the 3 by 3 is helpful in that way as well, that on those days where we just don't want to do the housewifing, it gives us the accountability to say, well, yeah, you don't want to do it, but get it done anyway. It gives us that satisfaction of being able to physically tick it off and report back to somebody that we've ticked it off. I know for me that is hugely motivating to look at my list and go, okay, I can tick this off and this off and this off, and then I can send you my new list and you can see how much I've done. Even though neither of us particularly care if the other achieves all their goals, it still introduces a kind of a low-key accountability, I think, which is really helpful.
And it's not even looking at what's on your list to do, it's more of a looking at the ticks at the end of the day,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
I am notorious for not actually like following through and ticking everything off. So generally, I have the list just to anchor me in the morning, and I don't even do it every morning. And I find the days that I don't do it, which I've been so slack lately, they're the days that it just gets too much. So I'm going back to when I said to my husband about being overwhelmed. He now knows how I work. So he's seen it over the years that if I can get it out of my head and write it down, and if I can write a big list, it means that I'm starting to turn the corner and can get to that next step.
Yeah, and I think that's where kind of this virtual errand hang that you and I do, I think is
Mm.
really helpful because, the stuff you have to do in adulting is so freaking boring. I had a day earlier this week where I think I was in town 2 or 3 times, organizing different bits of paperwork that had deadlines and had to be done. And it was just really nice in those moments to be able to message you and going, this sucks. This is what I'm doing. I'm heading to town. I'm coming home. And yeah, I don't know if it's a sounding board, if it's being seen in those moments of just, this is boring and
Groundhog Day,
yeah.
over
And it's
and over.
necessary work, but it's not interesting work. It's not, look at me. It's not necessarily an achievement to tick off, I submitted paperwork today.
Uh,
But as a housewife, that's my life.
What I'm finding interesting, though, it's just coming to me now, is society has this, and I've been feeling it for a long time now, that you have to work X amount of hours a week to do a full-time job. Your job is your whole, it is who you are. And then you're constantly this constant rushing through life. And then you've got to fit everything in between. And you get so caught up in that. Well, I know for me anyway, I got so caught up in that lifestyle of just rushing. When I did come home to work from home, it was a lesser, more responsibility, but less pressure.
At risk of this turning into my husband says episode, after you mentioning that, there was something the other day that I messaged you about one evening, and he's like, "You're not telling Car that, are you? That's not interesting interesting. I said, yeah, but that's what we talk about. Not everything that we talk about is interesting. It's just that mundane, everyday little bits of life. You know, we're off to take the kids to school, we're taking the kids to work, it's sharing funny quotes. And I think it's a way of building up a complete picture of someone outside of the shiny public face that we all tend to put on when we leave the house. And I think this is where the internet is really good for this, is because we don't need to put on a pretty shiny face because we're not leaving the house. We don't need to put on a pretty shiny face. It's just a message on a phone. But it allows us to be seen in a way that you can't be when you're in public. It's a different level of knowing someone, seeing their routine up and close. I think we've joked a bit before about your Rachie planner, haven't we? And you'll message me and you go, it's Thursday, isn't it? Are you off to, you know, my usual Thursday activity tonight? So it's become part of your routine to know my routine. And in the same way, I know roughly what time you go to do the school run and what days you're leaving early. And yeah, it's just a really interesting look how another person's rhythm becomes part of your rhythm because you are doing that every day with somebody.
It's like looking at your neighbours every day going, okay, she's going to work. Oh, what have they got today? Okay. Gosh, I hope they don't do that to me because then I'll see my parcels every day.
Oh, look, it's another parcel. Oh, look, it's
Speaking
another
of
parcel.
which, I think that's two weeks in a row we've recorded where we've been interrupted by the parcel man. So
But the fun bit is, ties into this episode beautifully, that's become part of our errand hang, is you receiving parcels. And now I know your parcel man by name.
a lot of the main mundane stuff, because I think also it goes back to back in the day, you and I would do a lot of writing challenges
Yeah.
and share a lot of writing challenges together. So I think sometimes the mundane, because I'm in a spot at the moment where I can't get my words out. I can't write, I can't speak. Hello, podcast. Like the stories I tell you sometimes now, like it's like a little story
Yeah.
to bring more into the mundane.
It's just adding your creative flair.
That's what I'm trying to say. Creative
Yeah.
flair. And it always comes back to creativity. I should keep a blog on some of these things, but then people might think I'm a bit mad.
I think the value in it is not necessarily the actual details of the mundane, because it's mundane, you know. And, you know, when I text you and say, oh, got the second load of washing hung out for the day, about to chuck another one in, it's not the actual details that are building the relationship.
It's the connection.
In those moments, we're letting ourselves be vulnerable. And that's where that true connection comes in, is allowing someone to see you in all your mundane glory.
Plus, it keeps you tethered to sanity, I suppose. So, particularly, I mentioned the postie before, but just recently we were building and we had builders here. It was always like there was always somebody else in my house. And doing the little things sometimes was extremely difficult. So felt like my entire life for 4 months was on show. So then all those feelings of anxiety sort of flow in. So when I could actually come in and say, hey, Rach, I'm having one of those days, it was really good to have that, just that connection and somebody else seeing that, even though it was mundane and even though it was like, you know, what I've got to clear off the table today because we need to eat and I can't move past the creative, like the craft stuff that I've like spread all over the table. It's one thing to go it alone and feel like you're just existing in the everyday life while everyone else is out, you know, living a full life of work and all the rest of it.
And I think too, it also speaks to a contentment in where you are at life, that you can use those mundane moments as those points of connection, because life isn't exciting all the time. If we're only, you know, sharing the exciting stuff and the interesting stuff, well, I'm a stay-at-home mum to 4 kids. We might talk once a year if I was waiting for the interesting stuff. I do think some of the peak mundane, errand hang, boring stuff that we share is right here as we record. Half the stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor is you letting your dog in and out, me trying to keep my kids entertained and quiet and fed and not interrupting.
Yeah.
And being video, there's nowhere to hide. So it's a real peek into our lives for each other, these recording episodes.
Yes, we do not have a recording studio.
Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe by like season 25.
Possibly. I'd still have to work out how to get rid of the birds. Some of the everyday stuff is particularly really prevalent when you are editing the episodes.
Yes.
And you come back, I think there was one last year or the start of this year. I had birds outside my window. And
oh my gosh, the
I
birds.
didn't think about them. And it was like, I think because it's just that everyday sound.
Yes.
But for you to get an insight into the everyday sound at my house is like this. And it's the
Yep.
same for me. Like, I have a very quiet house. I love my quiet time. I don't ever have like music or anything playing. There's no noises. But then when we dial in the morning and all your kids are there and they all want to say hello, it's like, oh, this is hi. Okay, shh. Is it any different, the messaging, to what we're doing here?
Yeah, I think they're different but the same, and it's really fun to get that peek into somebody's life. I once had a friend say it's a real level up in friendship when you get invited to somebody's house.
Mm.
And that really struck me at that point. I'm like, it really is, because you're being invited into somebody's space. And in those times, the person who's hosting generally cleans and everything's nice and shiny, and you've got the nice crockery out and whatnot. And that's really lovely. And there is an intimacy in being invited into somebody's house. But I think the next level for that is like a video chat where the kids and the dogs are coming in and out, where the birds are singing, where we're on a video call and you can see the stuff that I store on top of my fridge and the stuff that's on top of the cupboard, and it's just part of the experience. And that's kind of that next level again, which is a really cozy and comfortable, I think, is the words I'm looking for. It's a cozy, comfortable, familiar point of friendship, which is really lovely.
You have the friends that you clean your house top to bottom for.
Yep.
And then you have the friends that just call in unannounced and no questions.
Yep.
Look, I like to have my house neat and tidy, and I do like to clean it before everyone comes, but there is some friends that I'm like,
It'll be what it will be. Speaking of everyday life and the mundane, but I love doing Day in the Life each year as part of Blogtober, because it's fun to look back on just all those little details of the day. Have you ever done Day in the Life?
I think you tried to drag me into it. That was, I'm sure that you've asked me to come along on that one.
I have invited you along previously. I can't remember if you've actually done it, but yeah, it's fun looking back because it's all the little snippets. It's like, this is the face cream I'm using of a morning, and I've got photos of my washing line from when we lived in town because I was hanging washing, and I think one of them, it's hanging baby clothes. And even though it's the mundane stuff, it's the memories of everything that makes up life in that moment. So yeah, I do like to try and do it at least once a year. How about you? What are you working on?
Right now, in the middle of doing Inktober, trying to get back into the blogging sphere, but I'm not sure how I'm going to continue that.
I love your Inktober's every year. I always look forward to seeing it because you come up with some really cool stuff.
Third year, I've done in the last 2 years, and I've done every day. So hopefully this year I'll be able to continue and get all 31 done. Yay!
It'll be fabulous. I look forward to seeing the
I might need
journal.
a new book soon because the journal's starting to fill up.
It's an excellent problem to have.
Still not going to finish it this year, but that's all right. It is a Inktober journal. It has a place.
I know that quite a few of our listeners use our podcast as a soundtrack when they're doing their mundane stuff. Have you seen those comments come through?
I have, and I think it's
I'm listening while I'm cooking, or I'm listening while I'm
driving
cleaning.
to work, and I'm listening, and it's like, oh, sweet, you poor thing, to listen to me.
And that's really special, and I think it's exactly what we do in our everyday. So it's really lovely that our listeners have accidentally embraced one of the fun parts of our friendship by including us in the everyday.
Okay, I've never thought of it like that. Then when you put it into the concept of people are driving to work listening to us, or they're doing their big cook up on a weekend while they're listening to us, it's like, oh wow, they're doing their everyday, what we've been trying to describe.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. There you go. Wow.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is cool. I've never thought of it that way.
I feel really honoured to be such a part of just the everyday.
I think that's about the everyday.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to hear what everyday stuff you are up to this week, whether you're listening to our podcast or not at the time. You can join the conversation over at Instagram at Ministry of Crafty Shenanigans, and you can find the links and all the show notes from today's episode over on our website at ministryofcraftyshenanigans.com. And then we have the first layout of Tuesday for Week in the Life. So I've done some stamping down here for the title just to do something a bit different from over here. Jelly printed these and then just ripped them up randomly. Outfit of the day. These alphas are from my stash that I've had forever. And then just the shot inside my medicine cabinet of my morning skincare. And then I've just added some fake writing, bit of watercolor. And I love this page for Week in the Life. It's like rise and shine. So thank you for joining me in the craft room while I do this layout. I'm going to take a little break now and then get stuck into the next double page spread, which will be my morning. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next week for another video.